So we talked about the little children last time and how Jesus is warning against the person who causes the little child to sin is about you, who say that you cannot help but sin as long as you're in the body, and especially those of you who write those comments under videos and teach it. When you speak this, when you say this, when you announce it, you're teaching it. And you are causing people to sin. Whether you intend it for that or not, you are. And Jesus doesn't talk about intention here. He says, whoever causes one of these little ones who believes in me to sin. Nevertheless, you've been warned, and if you still do it, that means it's intentional. Now let's go further here. Because we ended with, woe to the world because of offenses, for offenses must come, but woe to that man by whom the offenses come, or the offense comes. If your hand or foot causes you to sin, cut it off and cast it from you. Why? Now you're going to say, oh, that's a hyperbole. Jesus didn't mean that. Just because it may be a hyperbole doesn't mean Jesus didn't mean it. Jesus used it, therefore he meant it. Regardless what it represents, Jesus meant it. Stop saying he didn't mean it. He said it, he meant it. He's not a liar. If your hand or foot causes you to sin, cut it off and cast it from you. Why did he say that? Why cut your hand off if it causes you to sin? What does that accomplish? You say nothing, because the sin's in the heart. That's not what Jesus says. He says, if your hand causes you to sin. How can your hand cause you to sin? He didn't say if you commit sin with that hand, cut it off. Interesting, yeah? Because that's what you hear. That's not what he said. This is an example where you're hearing something that you've rewritten so that you have a different Jesus speaking a different gospel to your ears. Now, I'm shocking some of you, even some of my subscribers, who does believe the gospel. Because they probably have been doing this too, from the time when they were in the apostate churches. If your hand or foot causes you to sin, he didn't say, if you sin with your hand, that sin that's in your heart, cut that hand off. Well, that wouldn't make sense at all, would it? And yet he says that your hand is causing you to sin, that your foot is causing you to sin. And you say, how is that possible? The hand and the foot have no will. They have no brain. They have no mind, no heart. It's just a hand. And yet Jesus said it, that your hand can cause you to sin. The hand causes you to sin. The foot causes you to sin. Well, it sounds like Paul, where he said that the members of the body wage war against me. Right? Right? That means that the members of the body are causing him to sin. That's what Jesus is saying here. If your hand or foot causes you to sin, cut it off and cast it from you. Why does he say that? It is better for you to enter into life lame or maimed rather than having 2 hands or 2 feet to be cast into the everlasting fire. I'm going to prove to you it's not a hyperbole. This is trying to elicit faith inside of you. If you are serious enough to cut off that hand that is causing you to sin, then you're serious enough to stop sinning without cutting off that hand. And therein lies conversion. Jesus is trying to convert the heart through this. And if your eye causes you to sin, how can your eye cause you to sin? Don't you cause sin using your eye? Not according to Jesus. Pluck it out and cast it from you. It's better for you to enter into life with one eye rather than having two eyes to be cast into hellfire. If you are willing to pluck out your own eye because it's causing you to sin, you are done with sin. In fact, it says that he who has suffered in the flesh is done with sin. Same thing that Jesus is teaching here. If you're willing to do this, if you're seriously willing to do this, you're done with sin. Your members no longer have control over you to wage war against you. You will enter into everlasting life. Whether you've cut that off or not, you will enter in. Because you've been converted. You have faith at that point. Now let's go on to the next one, the parable of the lost sheep. Take heed that you do not despise one of these little ones. Again, about the children. For I say to you that in heaven their angels always see the face of my Father who is in heaven. For the Son of Man has come to save that which was lost. What do you think if a man has 100 sheep and one of them goes astray? Does he not leave the 99 and go to the mountains to seek the one that is straying? And if he should find it, assuredly I say to you, he rejoices more over that sheep than over the 99 that did not go astray. Even so, it is not the will of your Father who is in heaven that one of these little ones should perish. Now remember, one of these little ones has humbled himself as a little child to be converted. So we read that in a previous video about the children in the same chapter, Mark chapter 18. So what are the sheep? Well, the lost sheep is one who is believing in Christ. He's a sheep. But he's astray. He's not with the others. He's off doing his own thing. His actions are not the actions of a sheep. And Christ is trying to bring him back, trying to get him to behave as a sheep. Stop sinning, doing what is right. The faith is there still because he's a sheep still. That's how we know he's a sheep still, right? But his actions have gone off. He's doing his own thing. He's off alone, wandering into the mountains, sinning, not doing what is right. And Christ is trying to bring him back and rescue him. The rest are doing what's right. They've stopped sinning. They're not sinning. But this one has started to sin again. And Christ is trying to draw him back. So if you're in that situation, cooperate with the Good Shepherd as he tries to draw you back into the fold. Stop sinning. Do what is right. Cooperate with Christ. He is the Good Shepherd. May the Lord bless you as you seek him with all your heart.